And we are live with Teek Interiors again. And my laptop's plugged in, so we don't have to be cut off early this time.
There you go.
I know, right? It just, I love it when people can teach me lessons.
Yeah.
And that was definitely one of them that I had to learn.
Learning and growing. Let's go.
Right? How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, doing good. You?
Oh yeah, living the dream. It's coming back from Surrey. I blocked out 3 weeks just in case the whole thing was a bluff and it all went to shit. I would have all that extra time. So this is kind of the tail end of that 3 weeks now. So it's like
Nice.
I'm tomorrow heading out to CSR. They have like a bathroom in the back of the berry store, and they've built an office on top of it. So we've got like a lot of like, no, I want to say old to new, but it's like new to new.
Yeah.
But because of all the racking and stuff in there is all black, so we cannot have any dust, none. So I'm frescoing the whole thing.
Nice.
Yeah, it's gonna be dope. And then
Yeah.
it's right in time for that fresco event too, right? So it's yeah, I'm super stoked about it. Um, but yeah, I mean like first big project back, I think that's a good one.
Yeah, for sure. And fresco, right? Like I did a little bit of that in BC and I loved it. It was so fun.
We were on live yesterday, and one of the things that I said was like the hardest thing because Nick was talking about like everybody that starts doing fresco when it's not like on a sample board, they're like, I'm gonna fuck this up, I'm gonna fuck this up. And I was like, my only thought process of how you were gonna have trouble doing fresco was that leaving lap lines. Like you're just so good with a trowel that it's like leaving that extra texture on the wall is like totally against your nature.
Yeah.
When Brad Hanna came to the fresco event with me, the first one, that was his whole thing. He's like, I can't just not have it flat. Sorry. And he was like making hearts and shit with the colors. Like he was just like, and it was one of those things where it's like, it was like a show of talent because he just like went up and was like, and it was this perfect heart that he did with a 6-inch putty knife. And I was like, okay, was wondering how you were going to show everyone up today, and I guess that's how.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah, that was like definitely a learning curve. Like by the time I put on the second coat, so what would you call that? Is it
uh,
second coat?
yeah, like skim coat or whatever. Yeah, second coat.
Yeah, my skim coat. When I went to do my skim coat, I was like, damn, I wish I would have left more flat marks.
Yeah,
Like I was too gentle with it.
it turned out mint though. Did
Yeah,
you?
it looked good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you see it done? Because it looks good around all those windows. Looked really good.
Yeah, yeah. He's like wanted me to do the inside and the edge of the chamfer. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like this is a whole different world to me. But and then he's just like, Kate, here, go. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, aren't you gonna like stick around? He's like, no, you got this. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I got this. Let's go.
That is Nick's way of teaching people how to do frescoes. So he flew Cam down there to like quote unquote learn, and he threw him into a big project and was like, "Okay, have fun," and he like fucked
Yeah.
off. Now Jack was there with him, so like he did get the training that he was looking for, but it wasn't like let's do a bathroom. It was like we're gonna rock and roll. Like if you get thrown into the deep end, you're gonna swim.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think it was a good way to learn for sure. And he'd walk up behind me like every once in a while, and I'd be like, oh God, I hope I'm doing this right. And he just reassured me. He's like, yeah, you're doing awesome. I'm like, okay. It was fun though. It was cool to learn. I can't wait to do it again. I still need to do my sealing, but I didn't do sealer there, so I'm gonna have to watch a video on how to correctly do that, and then I'll be good to go.
The the best technique that I've found for the sealer is just to get a bunch of it on your trowel, put it on the wall, and then kind of just lightly skim it off. And there are going to be high and low spots. In the beginning, I was making sure that there was no buildup. But that buildup is what creates flat. And then watching Nick do it on the ceiling, he's like pushing it into the wall. and that's kind of what's leveling it all out. So there is like some like what I would call master techniques, like the guy that's done it forever, the guy that invented it.
Yeah.
um and your inside corners and like,
Yeah.
there's a bunch of stuff that I do now from watching Nick. Like I'll go around and just like my hands are super calloused anyway, so I don't know if you'd have a lot of luck doing that. But like just rubbing down outside corners instead of trying to scrape it. Like there's just little things like little high spots that you could just kind of like buff out. um but I mean, you're getting real specific at that point. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, when you do it a
Yeah.
couple of times, it's gonna just turn out mint.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, Surrey was fun.
Surrey was fun for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
That was a cool experience to be part of. Like, I feel super honored, and it was cool that everyone had their own techniques and everything, and that everybody was willing to work together, learn new things, and like, sorry. My favorite part was being up in the art room with like you and Danny. Like, that was good times.
yeah, yeah. When I went up there, just because I wasn't sure, like I was trying to kind of like stick my head in every room, kind of thing. And you were up there with the knife, and I was like, man, this is a fucking nightmare up here. You're gonna try and knife it. And then when you were open to like go get that box, I was like, oh, today is just totally changed. It's gonna be so much fun.
Yeah, like that's the thing. I would have never thought to box that inside offset. And then once we started doing it, like that top, the roof of it that we were tying into, that was a little bit more tricky because we had to tomahawk it after.
Yes.
But still to fill it, it was like so fast and so smooth. Like I'll never do offsets any other way ever again.
And it planes it. Like you can set it to whatever you want to set it to, and then that second run with a bigger box is what finishes it. So it's
Yeah.
like you're filling it while applying, while, and so on and so forth. That was a brilliant idea, getting the tomahawk, and because it was the trusses that were screwing up the one side.
Yeah, that
The
whole framing.
Oh, it was just a mess.
It was like scary for
You'd
sure.
you'd never know now.
No.
It looks dope now.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
it turned out really good.
that the Trimtex video where they did the interview with everybody, it was like, I'm like checking the work that's behind us and stuff, and I'm like, oh yeah, that looks good. I was
Yeah.
super happy with that, and like how we did the tearaway bead instead of
Yeah.
like L bead or whatever around the windows. We worked really well together.
Yeah.
That was pretty dope.
Yeah.
And you're good at content, which was nice. I think that was really the only content that I personally had the whole trip. Like I did a lot of like dicking around on my stories and stuff, and the amount of people that liked that shut the fuck up was so cool, man.
It was the perfect opportunity, right? Like you didn't even know, I don't think you knew I was in the camper
I did
with
not.
Predator. And right when I heard it, I like never moved so fast in my life. Ran to
Shut the fuck up. Because that's like your neighbor that is tired of your shit. That's the way that it struck in my mind. And I'm like, this is so perfect. It was good. It was real good. Um, yeah, I mean that Predator rig was dope. Yeah, having cold fridge there, all of that. Like, where else would we have put all of the giveaway stuff?
yeah.
Like, it would have just been thrashed, or it would have been back at like Columbia. Like, I don't know. And we didn't have time to go through all that shit. Like, it was
Yeah.
this site was go go go.
Yeah. Yeah, it
I've
was super convenient. That's where the ladies' washroom was. So it was like kind of bougie for us.
I had that conversation in the beginning where it was like, anytime that there's girls on site, I have the site super in me understands what's needed. And then it's like, okay, but like a porta john sucks. And like you're not washing up in a porta john, and like you're not going to do the things that you guys need there. So you can get these like standalone. They're like an office trailer that is like a real bathroom on the inside, but it's super expensive. So then when he's like, "No, man, we're gonna park the rig there, and they can have like a real bathroom. Like you guys could have had a shower if you wanted."
Yeah.
So that
Yeah, it was
was,
sweet.
I was like, "This is dope."
It was nice to be able to just like wash your hands. I'm like, boy, I'm not used to this. Like usually it's in
Yeah.
a pail of water.
Of dirty, stinky water. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is great for your hands. Like I mean, mine are just so beat up from like years of abusing them. But like, well, I don't care. When I get home, my hands are all cracky and shit. I'm like, they're supposed to be
My
maybe.
my biggest thing is like when like I'm at work and I go to eat lunch, I usually have like a sandwich or a dish of chicken and rice or something, and my hands are always filthy and like I don't really care, right? Like I
It's
just go with it. Like it doesn't really bother me, but on that site when we could wash our hands, it was like, holy, like
this
this is
is
pretty fancy.
this is really nice. I
Yeah,
have absolutely looked at things that I'm eating and there is mud on it where I'm about to bite, and I'm like, that's just fine. Like I'm just like so hungry that I'm gonna eat this anyways. And
yeah,
but if I can have clean hands, I do it. It's just like, I don't know. I think like when you're running and running and running, it's just like certain things just don't matter. Like we need to
yeah,
ingest food and get back to it.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I've talked to a few people, man. Like that site should have been at least a month, and we got it done in 6 days.
yeah.
It's pretty wild,
We worked long hours though, really
man.
long hours.
So getting up at 5:30 or 6 to be on site for 7, and then we would work a full day, which some of those days were 12s, and
Yeah,
then go home, have a shower, to then get in a car to go to a dinner. Because it's not like we were going to dinner because like we wanted to. It was like how do you tell Adriana that tonight none of us want to come because we're
yeah,
fucking exhausted? You just don't do that. um you know what I mean? So then like I think of the night that Brad took us out, like I think we were there till 10:30. I was bombed by the time that we left, so I was like happy to just sit there and whatever. When we got home, I'm like, I gotta be up in like 5 hours. Fuck.
yeah. None of us girls came to that night. We were all like done.
Yeah, that day we cooked us. That I think we got cocky on Tuesday because some of the stuff was still wet a little bit, and
Yeah,
then we smashed. Like we were out early on Tuesday. Not early, but like it wasn't a 12. So we like all kind of goofed around on the way home of like, oh man, it's gonna be a fucking cakewalk. And then like Wednesday hit us like a Mack truck where it's like this is not going to be a cakewalk. And
no, for
then
sure.
when Nick showed up with all the bead, like that bead was super hard. Like I'm a carpenter by trade, and I was done with it. By when we were done, I was done.
Yeah,
I'm like, no, we're good. Um, I even had to step back from it. And I'm like, I gotta go do something else for a bit, and I will come back and finish this. And I knew that I was sticking around anyways, so I'm like, if I gotta do the kitchen some other time, that's fine. But I'm like not having fun anymore, and I've got to go do something else. So Aaron was
yeah.
like, so what if you like just cut the inside corners and me and Wes took care of the rest of it? And I was like, that's a great idea. So I just cut the inside corners for them, and then they did all the rest of it. I was just like so happy.
Yeah, that was the nice thing about that job was like it was massive, right? So you get stuck on something for so long and it's cool because there were so many people that were willing and able to jump in and help out wherever needed, and it was less monotonous, right? Like that happens all the time in our job, like same task for so long on such a big project. It's like it was nice to have such an arrangement of people and so many different personalities, you know. That was fun.
Yeah, it was
Back to
cool.
that conversation about like Adriana's
Yes.
dinner night. That was probably my favorite night with everybody when we went out and ate and then we went out to the pier. That was
Mhm.
fun.
Okay, so I'm wearing that sweater because I wanted to just wear troll stuff. Like I'm a furnace, okay? And I'm wearing this sweater and I'm like don't want to just carry it. And you guys are like freezing to death. It's like
It
it
was
was
cold
it was
out
super
there.
cold, man. Like by the time that we got out there, I was pretty happy that I had it. But like
Yeah,
like walking around typically, it was beautiful, eh? When you turned around, like it's all right on the water there. I think that's the longest pier in Canada in White
yeah,
Rock. They got a sign that says it. It could just be like best hot dogs in the world or whatever. Like you never know. But um the first night that Chad and I got there on the Thursday, that's the same place that we ate. And
yeah.
we did that anyways. Like we went for a walk afterwards. Um and I got this beautiful picture. Like if you kind of look to the right on the way back, there's all these colorful lights and there's like the streams of those lights on the water. I think I'm gonna blow it up and keep it because
Yeah,
it's
you
like
should.
it's really pretty. Yeah.
Oh my God, I totally forgot until you just brought this up about how you guys had met that fella at that restaurant that like loved you, like he was your biggest fan. I totally forgot about that till you just brought that up.
So he comes over and I'm like, oh, charcuterie board. I'm really into this because when I got there, I had been like a week and a half or 2 weeks or something eating carnivore, like super, super clean. So I was like, okay, I'll eat a steak and I'll get a charcuterie board and I'll be super happy with that. By the end of that week, I was like mucking danishes with you. Like I'd given up because it was just like this is not a time for anything but like grind.
Yeah.
But as he's talking about the charcuterie board, he's like saying all the things and telling us all the like where they come from and whatever. And I was just like, this guy's really impressive. Uh, and then I kind of got that vibe that maybe he liked me. And then I met his wife that works there, and I was like, oh, this guy's super cool. So Chad and I are sitting there. I'm like, what time do you guys close? Like it's like 9:30 or something at this point. And he's like, no, we're not good close. Like, what do you mean? You're not gonna close? He's like, oh no, we're good. We're good. And I have no idea what time we left. Like it was late. He like lives in behind. Like we went back there and like burned a tube. Like it was really cool, man. And then so when I came back in, I'm like sitting there like this, trying to like get, does anybody remember me? And then when he like locked eyes with me, he came right over. He's like, oh, is this the rest of the team? Is this the cool thing you were talking about? I'm like, yeah. And you know what would be special if it's Steph's birthday?
Oh my God, I
I,
forgot about that too. That was hilarious.
he was like,
I
so
was shocked when that was going on. Like I thought it I didn't even like comprehend what was going on, and then you fingered me. I was like, what the f- is going on? Like
so
I've never had that happen.
so you were kind of looking around and I had my phone out and I fucking pointed at you like it's your birthday. And then when everything was done, I like gave you the middle finger and you could see it on the video where you're like so confused and then you're like, and what the fuck was that for? It's so much fun, man. And I just like keeping that tradition going because it's fun to like do it to Nick because Nick plays around, so it's fun to play back around with him. But like having doing it for other people that are new or whatever, it was good. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I
And
was so
then
embarrassed.
well, that's the whole thing. And then you put it online and you get all these messages. That is the funniest part for us. Now, the like scale, like the amount of people that you have was probably too overwhelming for it to be a joke. But for us, if every one of my followers messages me, it's only like 1,000 people. Like it's not a big thing. But if like 10,000 people messaged you or something, you know what I mean? Like it's different. I thought about it afterwards, like maybe that was a dick move, but it was worth it.
No, it was fun. I loved when you guys did that to Nick because I think 2 or 3 times I've wished Nick happy birthday and he's like, yeah, yo, it's still not my birthday. I'm like, I'm done with this. And so when it was his actual birthday, I messaged him. I was like, Nick, is it like actually today? And he's like, yeah, Teek, it's today. I'm like, okay, finally, I've been waiting for this. Happy birthday.
So the last time that had happened, was an accident. He was like, Mom and Dad, somebody bought me a birthday rug or whatever. So Cam right away is like, Happy birthday, Nick. Like, I want to be the first one to say it on your real birthday. And it wasn't his fucking birthday again. So it was, I messaged him too. I was like, is it? And he's like, no, it's on the whatever date it was. That's another whole part of the burn though. Cause it's like Nathan from Nathan's Drywall is like, so kind. Like he legitimately wants to tell you happy birthday on your birthday. Like he's a
Yeah,
good guy like that. And we get him
yeah,
every time. We get him every time. And it makes me so happy. Because you're posting it on your stories and then you almost feel obligated to be like, it's not, and I got fucking burned and or
yeah.
whatever. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good
Nate
time.
is the sweetest.
He really is. Um, there are a lot of people that act like that. And there's not a lot of people that are actually like that. And like when you spend a lot of time with Nate, he's just such a good guy.
Yeah, super genuine for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell he has a huge heart.
And he does. And it's like, how and when can I help, and let's just do it. And
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully he can get on a job when we all go. Like, I think that would be a great opportunity for him and for us.
well, and he's another one of these people that has a different style to things. Like when we first worked together, he does two coats on things, but it's like with broad knives, like it's the same as if you were troweling. If you're troweling and doing two coats, it's flat. It is what it is. And it's more smooth than what two coats with a box would be, because you're like way more in control of what is happening with the mud, unless you're like a master of using the box, and I get that. But it's like his techniques are very different and he's fast. Like when he just starts motoring, like I was super worried about the one project that we did. There was like 2,000 feet of shadow bead on top of all the other bead in the house. And I was just like, man, this is gonna kill us on this like I figured we'd be doing it for a week. And he just hopped on it. And he did two coats in 2 days and it was done.
Holy shit.
And I was just like, oh man, I could like just kiss you. I was so fucking done with the idea. It was like keeping me up at night, and he just handled it like a boss. And that also just left me open to just run boxes and run corners, and like we smashed that house. I think our side of it was like 12,000 board feet or something like that, and I think we were in and out of there, and again like 6 or 7 days. Like we rocked that for a two-person job, and there was like 700 feet of no coat. Like there was a lot of no coat in that job, and yeah, it was really good.
Hey, I just noticed your hat.
Yeah, man, Danny.
He
I
just
think
happens to be taking over Columbia right now.
no. My favorite thing about that post was the amount of people that were like, "It's gotta be Bradley's dad." That's what and I was like, well, nobody's messaged me, so I know that it's not.
I
But I was like,
know.
and if it is this week, they're gonna be pretty upset because I'm not running boxes this week.
Yeah. That's so funny you said that because right when I saw that someone was taking over, like your mind just starts wandering, like who's it gonna be? I figured it'd probably be someone from Surrey.
Oh yeah, that would have made sense.
I'd like to see a few different people like inside their world, you know?
Well, and like when we were talking yesterday, where you were like, would I do it at work or would I just do it like a day in the life, like feeding chickens and like doing all the shit that you do on a regular day? Because I think that would be almost more fun. Where it's like, what's your day like? Not like,
Yeah.
I'm on site again. Like it's just like a longer story, like a post, because I think that'd be cool.
Could you imagine if I did a full day in the life as a single mom of three kids, running this acreage and stuff? It'd be crazy, like to show people like Well, anyone with kids, like, they'd obviously relate, right? And, like, anyone who doesn't have kids, it kinda shows you a new appreciation for, like, what parents go through, like, right? Like, kids are a full-time job,
Totally.
let alone our jobs on top of it.
And it's a full-time job that there's no break from too. Like if you're exhausted and then one of the kids throws up at 2 in the morning, like that you can't just not deal with that. Or like
Yeah.
they end up getting sick or like, there's like a million things that happen with kids. It's like I think all the people that have kids would relate and all the people that didn't, like birth control would go up.
Oh, for sure,
It's
especially
like
with my twins, like, they're out of control.
that's good though. A lot of that is like evidence of fun though too. My daughter's wild. When she just gets going, like I clean this house and when she leaves, it's like nothing was done. It's like
Yeah,
everything is everywhere. Things are like pulled out and like she's like climbing on shit and you're like, oh man.
for sure, like, we can our chairs have been stacked for ever since they could pretty much crawl, walk, everything because they pulled themselves up. So our dining room table has been out of commission the entire time we've lived in this house for the 3 years. Like, because they
Yeah.
get up there. I made the mistake one time. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll put them down. And I ran upstairs and heard clunk, 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 clunk. And I was like, oh God, something's happening. Ran downstairs. One of them was on the table with the scissors, just clunk, clunk, clunk on my wood table. And I'm like, you knew better. You knew better. That's it's like a roller coaster with kids
Totally.
for sure.
My daughter has figured out that there are ice cream sandwiches in my freezer all the time. So I have to sleep with my door open because up until a little while ago, she would just crawl into bed with me and like we would watch like a silly show of hers and we'd wake up together and it was like a nice like you would like cuddle and watch a show and it was like a much nicer way to wake up, and now all I hear is like "Tuku" of like the freezer opening, and I'm like, no, and I like run
Yeah.
into the kitchen, and she's like halfway through it. It's like a dog that's not supposed to get into shit, and then yeah, and you're like fighting it away from her. This is not breakfast, and she's like, I said ice cream sandwiches. Like she's so driven, like
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just nuts.
I agree.
Um,
Like, I totally relate. My kids just learned how to open up the fridge and freezer, and man, it's like so annoying.
well,
They're like always in there, like, wee with the doors.
So we do my son loved cheese strings. There's like these moo cheese strings and they're like wrapped around each other, but they're like a softer cheese. Like it's good. I want to like pull them in apart. You know what I mean? Like that's the type of cheese it is to me. So we always have them. And I'll go in there sometimes and I'm like, where the hell did all these cheese strings go? And then you'll like walk around the house and there are like just wrappers everywhere. And I'm like,
Yeah.
honey, like you don't like how are you eating them this fast? I was just in here. Like but I don't know. There's like this part of me that's like there's so much other good food in this fridge. Like you're just gonna eat cheese. It's insane.
Yeah. When it comes to dinner time and they don't want to eat, it's like, come
All
on. This is
all
why I say
right.
no to snacks. Hello.
Ah. Um Back to Surrey. Uh I was kind of worried day one when we were gonna like do all of our own rooms and like show each other all of our techniques and that kind of stuff. Cause that was the only way in my mind that we would all be able to see everyone's whole process or whatever. And I was like, okay, okay, okay. And then when we got out into that hallway and Cam and Danny took the Predators, and then we were like done the upstairs in the flash of a lamp or whatever, I was like, oh, we're fine. We're gonna be just fine. And then we went downstairs and same thing. Like when we were doing flats and butts, I ended up picking up a taper and Allison was chasing me around doing the wipe down. Because there was kind of six, like you need a roller, you need a flusher, you need a taper. But when when we weren't doing the corners, it was like we were just standing there. So I was like, okay, well, we'll just dive in on this too. But when we had that, like, I ran that roller, it felt like a whole day. And I was like, this is not glamorous. And it's kind of like, like, am I doing my part here? But then you sit back, you're like, yeah, man, someone's got to run that roller and someone's got to do it properly. Might as well be me, I guess.
Yeah, that was
Um,
so fun though when we were all on angles together.
yes.
Like, do you remember in the kitchen when we were all in there and well, like I was chasing Kayla, I'm pretty sure. But at one time there was four of us right by the vent, by the hood, range
Yeah.
hood. And I just remember like it was like one of my core memories of that job with all of us in one spot at one time. And it was just like it was the best way I can describe it is it was a surreal moment, you know, like I go from working alone on every job to being in one little area with so many amazing people. It was like pinch me basically. Is this
Yeah.
real life? I really like that.
My one of my favorite parts was walking around like as you're like running to go get a new bucket because you're out of mud or whatever, and you kind
Yeah.
of are seeing what everyone else is doing, and that moment of just like, man, that looks good, like this is really good work. I'm not used to that at all. I kind of am with like Steve and Nate, but like in my whole career I'm not used to that, like just having like people putting out really good work consistently. Like I had a lot of those moments on that trip of just like, this is awesome.
Yeah, and I think the personalities really help too. Like for example, Danny singing. Like that
Yes.
was one of my highlights as well. Just like, you know, such good vibes and work doesn't have to just be work, right? Like you don't have to take it serious all the time. And I think we some of us get our game faces on and like
Yeah.
don't smile for hours and hours because we're in the zone, right? And then Danny and Cam, like Cam singing too, just
Yeah.
kind of shows you a different perspective of how you can carry yourself at work. Like it doesn't have to be completely serious. You can have a good time too. But like I said, I'm usually alone. So like what am I just gonna be like smiling with myself? Like hee no, that's not really how it goes. So it was refreshing to be with people that were just such good vibe.
Yeah. I got my first glimpse of that at the Fresco in Illinois, which was kind of like that first like adventure or whatever. And I was feeling like I was a low dog on the totem pole because I had never gone to go see Nick. Like Nick had never really taught me. Like all the input from Nick was that Fresco event, and like I got 5 seconds of his time kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we all walked in there, and in the back of my head, I was like, okay, how are we going to split it up? And how do we keep it fair? And how are we going to make sure that it all looks the same? And Cam just walked in there. He's like, yup, I like the look of this entryway. I'm doing this whole side of the building, and just went and started mixing mud. And I was like, well, I'm not, I'm picking what I want then. And I like ran to the back and we just started killing it. And then you'd finish a wall and like go check on the next person kind of thing. And you're like thinking maybe they'll be stressed or like, is everything going to be okay? And he's like dancing and like doing his thing. Having all those like personalities on site, everybody jived and everybody was cool with each other's like quirkiness. Of
Yeah.
like, if I just had some random on my site singing songs that are ridiculous, I would be like, shut the fuck up, you
Yeah.
know? But it wasn't. And like we all dove in on it. There was so much good content made.
Yeah.
Like,
We
um,
were pretty lucky that we had like Caden and then Trim Techs following us around and then even Sure Pro
yeah,
still to like they were going around too. Sorry, I'm just posting my stuff.
yeah, man.
I keep on my schedule, you know, consistency is key.
When you said that, I was like, I'm such a big fan of that. When you're like, yeah,
It's
but
true.
at 2 o'clock, I gotta post my shit. But it works. That's something else I wanted to talk to you about, was just like the growth. Because like the last time you were here, I think you just hit 10,000. It was something like that. And you've tripled that already. Like you're 35 or something now, right?
Yeah, yeah, I'm 35 now, and I think I'm at 48 on TikTok now. But it took me forever. Like I've been doing TikTok, well, not forever, sorry, like 2 years.
Mhm.
Took me to get just about 50,000. But we'll see what happens with Instagram. Like it ebbs and flows, right? Like sometimes your followers come in like likes, and then it'll be months of just slow rolling. But I'm just trying to keep up with, like I said, my consistency, and
Mhm.
it always seems to pay off.
I mean, it seems to be for sure.
It's weird, like once you become an influencer or whatever, like you get into the community, right? And amazing opportunities start coming your way. Like today I'm home with my kids, but I did Zoom this morning to promote the
Saw that.
trades, like young people in the trades coming in, make it more appealing for them and kind of give them drive to keep going. And then like today with you going over Surrey and whatever else, right? Like it's crazy how much life changes and how many doors open and opportunities arise. Like it's actually mind blowing to me. Like I'm 1 year sober next week, and that's when,
Congratulations.
thank you. And that's when when I got home, that's when I did a deep dive into my social media. So it's for me to sit here with you today and look back to 1 year ago.
Yeah.
It's insane how much life can change when you get your life on the right path and get going in the right direction, how much you can prosper. It's actually mind blowing to me.
Well, and that momentum, once that momentum picks up, it just continues. And like you just keep doing your own shit, but it just really does. It just seems to pick up. Like I think about last year at this time was when I met Cam,
Aw,
and he's like one of my best friends now. Like,
yeah.
and we've been on so many crazy fucking adventures. And like the podcast started last January. Like there's only 60 proper episodes and then a bunch of like other silliness. But I look at that kind of stuff where it's like every time Aaron's like, "Do you want to come out here?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, but like, are you sure? Like, it's just me." Or when you talk to Caden sees a lot of that behind the scenes stuff where he's just like, "Yeah, you guys are so cool and like you guys are all so great." And we're just like, we're just hanging out. We're just having fun. Um,
Yeah, Caden's really thriving, like such a young guy, and he's putting out some fantastic content. Like I was actually thinking about him today, and I thought if he's gaining this many skills at such a young age and growing this fast, imagine him 5 years from now. Like he'll be untouchable.
he'll be sharp. Like he's already
Yeah.
there, but I mean, when I talked to him about it, I was like, you're not learning sales from a sales guy and you're not learning Columbia from like doing some of the stuff. You're shadowing Aaron. Like
Yeah.
you're like mini Aaron. Like, and not to say that that's who he is, but like he gets that experience of like all day, every day, you're picking up all of Aaron's good habits. You're picking up how he speaks to people. Like you're understanding what the company wants from you. And it like, yeah, man, 5 years from now, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with for sure.
Oh, even a
Um,
year from now, it's going to be immense growth for him. And
mhm.
you're right. Like, he's so lucky he gets to shadow Aaron. Like, Aaron and Elliot were such a treat. And then their parents came by, right? And their wives and
Yeah,
everybody. And it was like, what an honor to meet them. It was such a surreal moment meeting them all, like, because for me, and I'm sure you can relate, they're celebrities to me, they're celebrities in my world. So to
100%.
be in the same room as them, it was like wow, I think you made it moment, you
I
know?
so I'm like wearing stilts and I'm covered in mud. And when I saw is like you shake Bernie's hand 100% and then you don't wash your hands for a bit. But I mean, you almost want to give his mom a hug. Like
Yeah, I know.
when we went out there, we stayed at their cottage and we all stayed together. So his parents were there too. So like we got to like really get to know them, and they're like great people. And
They're so
like,
down to earth.
yeah, we had those conversations. So Bernie was going to go live with Nick the next day. So we kind of did like a prep of like, tell us the story, and they were talking about like the first times that they had to build the molds and how much it was and what it meant if it fucked up. Like if it didn't go, they would have lost everything. So
Yeah.
then he like pulls up his bootstraps and like works his ass off and like made it all work. It was just like such a success story, and like it's incredible how quickly you get to meet people, and then you sit back and you're like, these are like enormous people in the industry. I
Yeah.
just like what you said, every once in a while I sit back and I'm just like, I don't know how the hell I got here, but I'm like super happy I'm here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was such an honor to be a part of that project, and pretty life-changing, really. Like the amount of doors that'll open for everyone is just mind-blowing.
I'm already seeing it. Because people see like what you're capable of, and like, oh, you'll travel, and oh, you're this, and oh, you're super easy to work with, and like it all kind of happens so quickly. Like, and you've been super busy since then. Like you went out to go see Richard. That's huge.
Yeah, that was quite the experience for
I
sure.
bet.
Yeah, I like landed in Edmonton on Mother's Day, and then I had Monday with the kids, and Tuesday morning I was flying out to Quebec and stayed there for 3 days. And that was quite the experience. Like I'm just a little Alberta girl, okay? Like I live out in the middle of nowhere with my chickens and my kids, like live a pretty simple life. And for me to go all the way to Quebec, which I've never been there before, I don't speak French, like,
Yeah.
and I was alone. I had to get myself to I can't even pronounce the town. It was like Bertheville.
Yeah.
So I had to go from Montreal to there, and I was a fish out of water. I will tell you that for free. I was like nervous, but everything worked out. And once I got there, like Matthew and everybody, like they were so welcoming. Like it literally felt like I went from family in BC to family in Quebec. Like I crossed Canada, and no matter where I went, I felt like safe with the people, and that's super important to me with being such a small town girl, and just the opportunities, like it's just pretty surreal.
That that feeling you had is what sparked everything I've done in the last year and a half. Like
Yeah.
I went to that Black Friday event because I wanted to meet Nick. Nick was going to be out here. We had just started talking about the podcast. I just heard about Fresco Harmony. Like, I was like, this guy's from Albuquerque. He's never going to be back here. And then it was like, oh, and by the way, Aaron's going to be there. And I was like, holy shit, I'm never going to meet Aaron again either. So like I have to be at this thing, and I don't want to bother anybody, and like I know that I'm like this person that shouldn't be there is the way that it felt. And when I got there, like I met Wolfgang, he was super happy to meet me, introduced me to his wife right away. Like, is just the nicest person. And like I met Aaron and he was like, are you coming out with us afterwards? And I'm like, no, like, what are you talking about? That was the first night of the first podcast. And I think if Black Friday didn't happen, this podcast wouldn't be here, because that sense of community and like I just felt at home. Like I felt, and I could just be myself. Like you didn't want to like be quiet, and you didn't want to like stay in the corner like you thought you were gonna. It's like everybody wants to know your opinion, and like everybody wants you to come out and hang out afterwards. And It
Yeah.
was just this like crazy feeling. And then a couple months later, we go to Vegas and it's just like, and then that group just starts getting a little bigger and a little bigger and a little bigger. And I've been super fortunate through the podcast too, where like you meet people, you get to know people. You know, when you're saying you're super fortunate to have come to Surrey, like when we were all down in Illinois doing the thing, and you were like, do not do anything like this again without me. And like behind the scenes,
Just aggressive.
wow, no, but I mean, there was like genuine excitement. Like you weren't being
Yeah.
polite. It was like, dude, don't do that shit again without me. Um, and like Cam and Nick and Chad and I are sitting around going like, that would have been fucking dope to, have this other person that would have been super good. And then as it progressed, there was like so many people that had that opinion, not like that opinion, but I mean, it wouldn't like, you would almost think that people would be like, why are you doing that? That's stupid. But yeah, when Aaron was like, let's get a team together, I'm like, dude, it's already together. Like, I mean, everybody wants to, and we're all doing the Columbia thing. We all know each other. That was one of my favorite parts. Like, I know Cam and Chad and Aaron and Nick very well now. We've spent a lot of time together, and Cam knows the girls, and you know the girls, and like there was this like spider web of how everybody is friends. Like we're once removed almost.
Yeah.
And like I've had you all on the podcast, so like I've had conversations with you. I kind of know what you guys are all about, and it was like I couldn't imagine another company doing that, where you're going to bring a bunch of people who are these personalities together and then everybody gets along right away. Like that's insane. Like that was never going to happen again.
Yeah.
um yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, it's funny how that worked, hey? How you guys all knew each other, and then me and the Gilberts, we hang out, and then yeah, like you said, Cam and the Gilberts, and then the Gilberts went and worked with Chad.
Yeah,
Like it's just so weird how we were all like connected, and then it all came together as a full circle moment.
absolutely. And I mean, even an easy project, it would be difficult to get that many people together, but that was like a high stress project. It wasn't boarded correctly. They didn't like, that was about as bad as we could have gotten from the framers and boarders. So it's not even like this enormous task was like good. It was going to be a fight, and it didn't break anybody. It was just this like everybody came together and we killed it as a team. It
Yeah.
it was just such a good feeling.
Yeah,
Um,
like it's one thing for us to do smaller jobs and deal with shit less than perfect board, I'll say. But it's another thing to walk into such a massive job and the boarding and framing be so sketchy.
mhm.
You know, that's a whole different beast. But we all, yeah, worked together and got it done.
Yeah, and I mean, and well, and quick. Like, um, I was super impressed. And then when it came down to sand day, like it was like, okay, we still have all this fresco scope to do. We still have all this stuff to do. Like, at some point, Cam's gonna need some relief on that fest tool. And I was like, I always put myself up because it's like, I'm the biggest, like it's heavy and it's above your head, and I get it. And I was fully ready to sand all the fucking ceilings, and I did not want to do it. But and then he just ran through, and I was like, okay. So we talked about it the next day. I'm like, okay, I know you ran the festool all yesterday. Do you want me to do it? How would you like it done? Because you're the one that kind of like did the shitty thing yesterday. And he's like, nope, it's not a shitty thing. Love doing that.
Yeah,
It's
and
like,
he's so good at it. So was
okay,
Wes. Like Wes definitely needs credit where credit is due. Like
yes,
I followed him upstairs with a sponge, and there was only like one or two spots where the paper spiraled a little bit,
yeah,
the sandpaper onto the mud. And other than that, like that was the easiest sanding ever because he was so good on the machine.
yeah. And he was humble about it, but he knows he's good too. Because I was like,
Yeah, he is so humble. He's such a sweetie. I absolutely loved getting to know Wes, like
yeah,
and sitting beside him or across from him at meals and just chatting. Like he was such a treat. I was so happy. Like at first I'm like, who is this guy, right? Like we don't know.
same.
I didn't know personally, right? Like and then yeah, right when the boots hit the ground, he was definitely part of the family.
Cam and I had a Zoom. We didn't tape it or anything. Like we're talking about the fresco event and just catching up. Like through this whole process, Cam and I were like trying to do like a call a week kind of thing, just to whatever. And we hadn't in a while, so he's like, we should do a call again. And I got all excited. Instead of staying in hotel rooms, Cam and Wes are gonna come here, and we're just gonna like hang out at my house when we're not at CSR. And I was super stoked about that. Um, but when I was talking to him about it, like Wes was like, so I've been doing screws forever. There's still more to do, but should I be doing something else? Like he was always so like, where can I be helpful? And
Mhm.
like, where's the best place for me to be? And Cam's like, dude, we're all having fun. Just like do whatever you want. And he was happy to do all the things that like just had to get done. I think we all were.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was so cool. And I talked to Cam too about like when I meet people, I like find out how we're gonna be friends. Like how is this gonna work? Like with Aaron, it's bullying always. And do you know what right?
Yeah.
He's got like those like heavy big brother vibes and like
Oh yeah.
I love it. And the chirping and all that kind of shit. Danny, exactly the same way, right? Like as soon as that started in Florida, I'm like, we're gonna be really good friends. So I started trying to like feel out Wes of like how is that going to work with us, and it was just like he just be he's just so kind and like so nice, and I was just like, oh, this is going to be really easy. You just be super nice to him, like you just be honest, okay.
Yeah.
And it worked
Yeah.
out great. It worked out super great. Yeah, I think about how stressed everybody got doing the bead that like second day or whatever. And it was like, this is a lot of bead, this is a lot of bead. And then when I got home, I was like, Chad did bead for 2 full days prior to that. We would have been doing it for the rest of the week if we didn't, like we all would have had to do it for 2 days if we wanted to get it done. Like I didn't understand what he was doing because it was like we got touch-ups to do, we got corrections to do. We did it both that whole first day. And the second day, he just started hopping on bead. And I was like, man, I don't think that's the right thing, but I wasn't going to tell him that. And I mean, if he didn't do that, I think we would have been fucked.
Oh, for sure. The amount of detail around all those
Crazy.
windows, like that chamfer bead, like that, it turns out really nice in the end, but man, that was a ton of work
Yeah.
for sure. Like even just coding, it's not the same as a square bead, right? Like takes a little bit more finesse to get that nailed down. But like Chad did a wicked job pre-cutting it all. Like
Yeah.
kudos to him.
Well, that is what I like when people talk about Chad, they go right to texture and like Venetian and fresco and all those types of things because that I think is how he's gotten known so far. But when you're down in Illinois, he is a master at bead. Like
I think
they
he's a master at everything.
oh
Hey,
to
like
yeah, I guess the more you look into it, like it's even those auto assist boxes, I'm like, these things are so stupid. Like it's like forcing it out and all this other kind of shit. And he's like, yeah, but I don't water down my mud so it doesn't shrink. And then you're like,
mm,
oh, that's why you use the auto assist. And it's like every little piece of his kit makes sense for the way that he does things. Like he's really dialed it in the amount of time that he's been running that business.
yeah,
And kind of slow and steady wins the race sometimes, man. Like if you're doing detail beadwork, you cannot run through it. It is
no,
like
no.
everything has to be bang on or it's fucked. Like trying to code all that bead and it be a nightmare would have been a real problem.
Yeah, for sure. That would have been painful and time consuming for sure. And it
Um,
already was time consuming, so that's the last thing we needed.
yes. Um, oh man. Cam and I looked at each other when we were doing that bead. He was up on his stilts, and I was like, if I just cut it for you, will you install it? Because it was too late in the game and there was too much going on to be like, let's all be friends and do this. It was like who do I work best with here, and who's not going to get stressed about it. And Cam kind of put his hand up, and I was like, fantastic. When we got done that first area, there was a couple of bulkheads, and then we got into where that kitchen table is going to be, on the, like, not in the kitchen but that next room. I don't know what the hell I was doing, but I wasn't cutting it properly. And then I would come back. I made two little jigs of like which way each was, to try and like make it easier for myself. And I was
Like a
cutting them
template.
exactly, and I was cutting them upside down and shit. And like it was just, it, I was just done by then. I was so stressed. And we kind of said, okay, we're done with this today. Like, I will do this later on another day, and I will do it fine by myself. Like, but today I don't think I can do it anymore. And he kind of pulled me off to the side. He's like, I was wondering when we would find something that was stressful, because we've done all kinds of shit and it's never gotten stressful. And
Yeah.
even if it's like a lot of work, like that Hollywood was like, I don't know, 30 bottles of fresco or something stupid. Like it was a lot of work, but it never got stressful.
Yeah.
And it was never frustrating.
Well, we
Um,
were also so late in the game too when you guys started doing that. Like, wasn't that Thursday? So that would have been like day four. Like, that's late to be putting on bead and that
yeah.
amount of bead, like, for sure it'd be stressful. But you
Well,
guys did well. Like, give
I think we,
yourself some credit.
I know, but that's what made it stressful, is like we don't have time for this shit at all. Like there was
Mm-mm.
so much to do.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. In some parts, it was like everybody just took something and just ran with it. And it's like, I'm really good at this right now. I know that it's high stress. I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to take care of this. And I was just like, I'll fucking box the ceilings. Like, that's a miserable thing to do. I can do it from the ground. And like, for me to push on a box to run it is very different than somebody else to do it, because I've got 100 pounds on everybody else. Like, I definitely felt it in my chest and in my back that second day of doing ceilings. Um, but it was just like, yeah, this is great. And I enjoy doing it because I do it from the ground. I'm not like, if I slip, I'm not falling off of stilts. Um, and 10-foot ceilings are tough, man.
Yeah.
Uh, so it was like, I feel like I'm wasting my time, and like maybe I should be doing something different. And then you would just look up and look around, and everybody was just like killing it. Like
Going.
every person was going. Yeah, it was such a good experience. It just went so smooth for how much of a disaster it was when we got there.
And well, it took forever to get there. Like, we got
Yeah.
pushed off from like what, January?
So
We got pushed off like four times or something. Three?
yeah, it was definitely three. Um, so in the beginning, we were talking about, okay, nobody wants to work getting close to Christmas. Like we were talking about December the first time. And then it was like, okay, so we'll just do it the beginning of January. Okay, now we'll do it, and now we'll do it, and now we'll do it. But over the course of all those pushbacks, it evolved into a better thing each time, where, you know, the girls have this great relationship with Trimtex. So I was like, are you okay with us talking to Trimtex about them getting involved? Because it's like it's a good content deal, and whatever. And then when Trimtex was super excited about it, it was like, okay, who else is going to be super excited about it? And then that just like started to snowball. If we did that in January, it would have been like, how the fuck are we getting our tools out there, and like how are we doing all these things? And then when Aaron got on board and like was like, oh, I got SurePros grew up with me. Like they were lived in the same cul-de-sac or whatever. Like as kids, they used to watch them skateboarding and stuff. And it's like,
Like Aaron and Brandon.
yeah, like
That's
yeah, Brandon was telling me this like story about how like they were a little bit older and like we used to skateboard and like Brandon's a pretty cool guy, man.
it's
He's a
funny because I could picture them doing that.
absolutely. And there's this little thing in the back of my mind that's like, is the reason they think skateboarding's so cool because of him? Because like skateboarding is the whole reason that the ambassador program even got started. Like it's like all these little timeline things that all lined up perfectly, and then we were all in the same place again. Like I don't know. Um, you looked at me funny when I said that. Do you know that story? Okay,
No,
so way back in the day, when like Tony Hawk Pro Skater days, before it got crazy into the X Games and all that kind of stuff, if like World Industries really liked a skateboarder, they would send them a skateboard and be like, we want you using our skateboard. And then they would be like, that worked out pretty good for us. We're going to give you an allotted amount of money that you can spend through us and rep our shit, and it's all free. And that's how kind of ambassadorship started back in the day, where it was like, hey, and why don't you wear our clothes? And hey, why don't you do this? And hey, why don't you do that? And then I think again, sorry, Aaron, if this is wrong, but I think they were sitting around going, how are we going to change the marketing of this? And how are we going to do things? And they were like, we should do what skateboarding did and find like the coolest fucking people out there and have them rock our shit. And that's what started the whole thing. And then I think as the story goes, they went onto Instagram and put in like hashtag Columbia Tools, and Phil had already been doing that. And that's how everybody got roped in together. They like saw this like super cool dude with awesome work already doing what they were trying to build. And then they started the ambassador program where in the very beginning, if they asked you to be an ambassador, you would get a full kit and you were tied to them for a year. And then that's how the arrangement worked. And then eventually, instead of doing that, they do the monthly thing now, which I think's way better. It's grown this community intensely.
that's
Where
how I got in.
same,
Tomahawk month.
really, yeah.
Yep.
I I was like that kid that kept knocking on the door to see if you would come out and play for like a year. Like every single time I had a Columbia tool in my hand, I was posting it on my stories every single time. And like, and then eventually they started resharing it. And I was like, this is dope. And then eventually Jill was like, so how do you feel about like doing a month for us? And I like, if I could have done a backflip, I would have done a backflip. And then I like went crazy with the content that month. Like I think it was Anglehead month, and I took it apart. I broke it down to all the pieces and then put it all back together. And like that was one of my content things. And then it was like next month and then next month and then next month. And that's how it all kind of started. But the cool part about that is though, you got 12 months of the year, you've got 3 ambassador spots. So you've got 36 different opportunities. So that could be 36 different people. And like that's kind of how you and I got hooked up through Tool Pro, where it was
Hmm.
like, I don't know anything about you, but your stuff's really cool and we're on the same brand shit. So we should
Yeah.
fucking start talking. And then that, it just grows that community.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I know Colombia has brought me, they've connected me with a ton of people. Like, I'll never forget, it was about 14 months ago from now, was my first viral video ever, went like shot to 5.6 million views. And that's
Ooh,
when I realized that I would what I was capable of. And so I said on my story of my personal Instagram page, like to my friends and family, I was like, I'm so excited about this. And I set a goal to one day hopefully be um, sponsored by Troll Clothing and Columbia. And
nice.
since then, I've been sponsored by Bowls. So it's crazy, like to look back to just over a year ago, setting goals and So I would have set that, like I said, 14 months ago, and then I first got sponsored by Columbia Tools last August. And
So
like, look
it took
how,
a couple of months.
yeah, like look how far. And I wasn't even posting until August, like they found me on TikTok, Jill found me,
Yeah.
and then I started posting on Instagram right after that. And she had already messaged me on TikTok. And then she messaged me again on Instagram and she's like, I love your content. And I was like, oh, we're already working together. And she's like, oh yeah, okay, you're Teek from TikTok. She's like, well, again, on a new platform, I really love your work. Do you want to work together again? And I was like crying my eyes out. Honestly, I was like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, she found me on two different platforms. Like, I just felt so grateful.
Yeah.
That's the best way to describe it. Just so much gratitude for it's like, you put so much time and effort into learning this trade, let alone getting good at it. And when you're recognized, that feeling is undescribable,
Yeah.
you know?
I I I've said it a lot of times, but I always feel like I'm bothering people, and I always think that I'm a lot. And Columbia was one of the first like people to be like, no, 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 we like that. Like this is a cool thing that you got going on. Like, don't stop doing that. Like, how do we get more of that out of you? And like,
Yeah.
how do we get you figured out with us? And like, Columbia Tools is really good at um not like grooming people, but like foresight of like this is going to be a really good addition to the team. and
Yeah.
and if you take a look at all the other companies that have ambassadors, um the majority of them started at Columbia, if you really think about it, or like really wanted to get in with Columbia. Like it's they're very good at finding the right people and putting the right tools in their hands.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
You
um
know, what I love about Colombia is the fact that they'll set you up with the tool and just wash their hands of it.
yep.
Not once have I ever felt pressure, ever once, to put out content. I've never ever felt like I need to change who I am or censor
Mhm.
myself, filter myself, not once. They believe in me, which helps me believe in myself to grow my skills and not feeling pressured by them because I have felt pressured before by other companies. And,
Yeah,
it's like, it takes the fun out of it. I'm not going to lie,
it
right?
does.
Like, they're constantly bantering you to like, get this out, get this out. We want this. It's like, no, sorry, but no, like I don't want to change who I am or what I do so that it works for you. Like if you want me to be part of your team, you kind of just got to take me as I am. And that's what I love about Colombia. Like me and Allison have had this conversation more than a handful of times, just expressing our gratitude of how they carry themselves,
Mhm.
and you feel safe around them and you feel appreciated and what more could you want, right? Like that speaks volumes to people like me.
Same. Yeah, especially growing up where it was just like, I don't know, I shouldn't have to want to impress you. You should just want me around, and if you don't, then just call a spade kind of thing. And when I started doing stuff for Columbia, it was the exact same thing. By like the third month that I was doing something with them, I was like, okay, but like, what do you want from me though? Because this is like quite a bit now, right? Like I've gotten quite a bit from you guys. What is it you want me to say? What is it you want me to do? And it was like, what you're doing, man. Like we didn't, this isn't a transaction like that. It's we now I think they want 4 posts. It's one a week or something of like make a video with it, to use it a funny way, or like however you want to do things. I've never once gotten notes, and like I've done some silly shit with the tools, I have, and I've never once been like, oh, you don't like that, I'll change it. There's never been anything like that. And it's anytime I've asked for like, do you want talking points, like do you want to like let me know what to do so I could do a better job. And the answers always come back as like, I don't think you can do a better job. This is what we want. And it's how I do it. And then yours is how you do it. And Cam's is how Cam does it. So that like difference comes because you've got so many people using them differently and like different ways of doing things. Like it's so smart the way that they've done it. And there's no pressure. Like I talk to people too, in particular, I was recently talking to somebody where they're not being paid to do it. It's like we sent you tools a while ago and you're still using them. And when this person's sending videos in, they're getting notes about like frame rate. Like, yeah, I think we'd like this a little different. Oh, I think we'd like that a little different. It's like you're getting awful specific for somebody that's doing you a favor. Like it's a little crazy. Or, they'll send you stuff because they just want you to have it. And then it turns into this like, well, wouldn't it be nice if you did this for us? Wouldn't it be nice if you did that for us? And it's like a pressure situation.
Yeah.
Never felt
That's
that.
exactly it. You just nailed it on the head. Like I've never once felt pressure from Columbia Tools.
No.
Because that takes the fun out of it. It really does. Like we already know that posting content is a part-time job, if not a full-time job sometimes.
Mhm.
Like if you're pumping out reels every single day, I'm staying up after my kids have went to bed. I'm building a reel to make sure that I have it ready for the next day. Like that's a lot, and so it's like I don't even know if I should bring this up or not, but like look at Alice, for example, absolute legend in my mind and my
Yeah.
heart. I love Alice. But eventually like the fun gets sucked out of it, and hi, that's not a thing for me with Columbia Tools.
Yeah.
They've learned how to crawl out of their cribs.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Hi. I know you got out.
I got out. You're like, no shit. Yeah.
What's up?
You're like, no shit. Do you want to pause? You can, or are they up now?
Yeah, we better wrap it up.
Yeah,
They're
okay,
gonna
cool.
get loud.
All right.
Do you
Well, that
want to
was
come say hi? Come say hi to Sean.
hi. How are you?
They don't
Mm,
speak English.
that's okay. Hi. That's
That's
so great.
Sean. He's my friend. We work together.
Hmm.
Cool, hey?
Well done, man. Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, anytime. Anytime. Yeah, that was cool. Just out of the blue, like, I got a few hours, let's just go. And I was like, yep,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, it's nice when it works out for sure.
Good. All right. Well, I'll let you go then to do your thing.
Yeah.
What a better way to wrap it up. That's dope.
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome to my world.
I know, right? Okay.
Okay, I'll talk to you soon. I'll probably talk to you later this afternoon.
All right. Okay, everybody, be humble, treat everyone the same, do your fucking job.